So let's talk about how you got started in dogs.
Well, I started probably the first dog I had, I was maybe 5, 6 years old. My grandfather had a litter of just all-American dogs, just puppies. And so I just was fascinated with a puppy, so he gave me one.
Oh.
So I kind of grew up with a puppy, and she'd be about the size of a big corgi, you know. And so she went everywhere with me. And so I kind of grew up loving dogs, and then I went off to college. I didn't have a dog for a few years, and then when I went to graduate school, someone gave me a German Shepherd whose ears did not stand. Okay, they just needed to find a home.
Yeah.
So we took that German Shepherd, and I got married, and my wife was into obedience. So she got me into obedience. So through graduate school, we pretty much had an obedience dog, and we did a lot of things like that. And then we moved to Atlanta. I became the assistant dean of men at Emory University.
Wow.
Not the men, assistant dean of the college at Emory. And then we had some more dogs.
Okay.
And then I got involved in more research, which I had already been at when I was in graduate school. So I tested Mendel's first and second law of genetics.
Really?
Breeding carriers to carriers and non-carriers, that kind of thing. And I found out that Mendel was right.
Glad we proved it, though, right?
So I was
doesn't hurt to double check.
I was hooked on research.
Yeah.
So I left Emory University and had dogs throughout this time.
Okay.
And then went to work with the U.S. Department of Education. Okay. Eventually became the Commissioner of Education and then the Regional Administrator, which is the top position. And so my responsibilities were the 8 southern states and all the colleges and universities in it.
Wow.
So there's a lot of research going on in the 8 southern states. So as I traveled to visit primarily the presidents and the deans, I would always stop into the research areas to see what was going on, and people would say to me, why don't you write an article about what you met when you talked to Dr. So-and-so. So I started writing a few articles for different dog magazines about things that I found out when I was at this vet school or that vet school.
Which the average layperson wouldn't be exposed to.
Right, and since I had a research background, I could rewrite it in English as opposed to all the technical
the research.
Yes, exactly. So again, through all this time, I had dogs, but now I learned to get better dogs.
Yes.
So now I'm into really purebred dogs.
Right.
I knew about the breed standard and joined the local club. Was going to fun matches, so we were just having the greatest of all times, and I had the perfect job. It just took me everywhere. So someone said to me, you ought to write a book. I didn't think I could write, and so the first book I wrote was called Genetics, How to Breed Better Dogs. I took it to the publisher, and he said, God, this is a great book, but he said, I can't make any money on this book. He said, it's really written for graduate students. I need a book for the people. So he said, is your mother still alive? And I said, yeah, she is. He said, rewrite the first chapter, and when she can read it, write the second, and then bring me the book back. A year and a half later, I bring the book back. And by this time, I hated the book. I mean, it was so hard to rewrite everything, every idea, So anyways, I rewrote it, and it was an instant success. The guy was right. He gave me good advice, but I didn't know how to write that way, and so it was a real struggle to do that. So that book was the first success, and that really taught me something that, maybe I could do this thing, because I love the research, and I love the writing, maybe I could put it together. So
marrying all your passions,
exactly
into one, right?
Exactly. So some clubs said, well, why don't you come and talk to our club about this stuff? So that started another career. So now I'm writing, I'm talking to clubs, I'm going to dog shows, I'm breeding dogs, I'm finishing champions. I mean, I had the best of all worlds and a job.
Living the dream.
You
can pay the bills too.
But I never realized that this would become a career. It was just kind of, because by this time I had 4 children. Wow. So I was a busy guy and trying to keep all the balls in the air.
Not much sleep, probably.
No, not much. So one thing just led to another, and then I was involved with my parent club, and so I became president of my parent club and my local specialty club. And then I joined a couple of all-breed clubs around. So with that, it was a totally family environment.
Sure.
Both boys became juniors. One went on to become an NFL player.
Really?
And today he's a movie star. The other junior became the hero of the year in the military He's a big, military guy. We call him Rambo.
Yeah.
In the military. So, that worked out well for the boys. One
Right.
girl became runner-up for Teacher of the Year, and the other girl is an oncology nurse.
Oh my gosh,
So,
you did something right.
Four great children. Give
Yeah.
all the credit to my wife because
Yeah.
I was too busy.
Oh.
So it worked out. It was a
team.
great family life. We had dogs. The
Right.
kids grew up with the dogs. They went through junior showmanship.
Yeah.
It was everything you'd kind
The
of
whole
want.
family was at the
a
dog
dream,
show, right.
A dream kind of life. So then time went on, and I got involved with the AKC, became an AKC board member, and so it was never stopped.
Right.
So eventually I retired, and then I think my work level went up. I thought it would go down, but
what happened to time
actually
off?
went the other way. So now I was lecturing around the world. I started doing research. I published a really good paper on the risks afloat.
Okay.
I wrote the
Just
paper
big in
on
shepherds, especially.
yeah. I wrote the paper on early neurological stimulation, which turned out to be worldwide a great article. And then I've written and published several papers like that. We have a paper coming out next year with a couple of other scientists on junior showmanship. We have 1,300 juniors in the study. The study's never been done like this before. And so we think, maybe we can say something positive about how can we make it better and how can we grow it.
Right, and from a data-based empirical standpoint,
Yep.
rather than opinion and that kind of stuff. I love that, and this work is also available in an online format as well, right?
Not yet, but it probably will be. Yeah.
Okay, very good. And I think the part about the juniors is great because that's talking of the importance of juniors, is that's what keeps this going. But also just from a breeder's perspective, sometimes it can be hard for people to access information. So when they can see it in a data-based, public point, like in an article that you might read, that offers a lot of tools for people that if they are limited by geography or don't have the mentorship, or it kind of prevents reinventing the wheel, right?
Well, what I'm beginning to learn is technology can fill in the distance problems.
Yes.
So we're getting a good lesson on that.
Right.
More recently, just to let you know, there's been a shortage of detection dogs needed to protect the country. This has been going on since 9/11, Brussels, Boston, New York, and Las Vegas. The terrorist issue has just become forefront across all government agencies. In 2016, the U.S. Senate held 3 hearings on the security of the infrastructure. And one of the things that was brought out in the meeting is the need for a domestic breeding program to provide these explosive detective dogs. And we don't have one. Europe has always had one, and we've pretty much relied on them. But now every country in the world wants these dogs, and they have more money than us. That's the thing that everybody's discovered. So they're just buying up the better dogs. So right now, about only 30% of the dogs we buy actually pass.
Wow.
So that's a huge financial cost.
Yeah.
Not only in people and time, but in dogs. And so they want to change that.
Okay.
So after the hearing was over, I was an AKC board member at that time. And one of the witnesses asked me to get AKC involved. So I went to the board and presented the idea that we could get the AKC involved because we have 130,000 breeders. We have 5,000 dog clubs. We have 35 different kinds of events, and we offer 22,000 shows or trials a year. So we certainly have the scale to get involved. So the board created the AKC Dog Detection Task Force, which I chair. So our job is to find breeders who are interested in helping the country breed these kind of dogs. We've hired a professional consultant from the TSA breeding program, and so we're off and running. So today we have about 130 breeders involved. We're setting up a database that will track these dogs throughout their life. We'll have DNA on these dogs, so we'll know the genetic differences between the top performing dogs and those that don't perform as well. All of those traits. And we'll have a website. We have a website now. It's almost completed. But when it's up, it will provide all the information about how you breed these kind of dogs. I call them super dogs because they're smarter, they're more trainable, they have better heart rates, for more adrenaline,
Yeah.
more resistance to disease, and greater tolerance of stress the rest of their life.
Really?
Everybody should have this kind of dog.
Oh, and is it specific breeds?
Well, it's kind of a staging information. You have to start with the pedigrees, and I love this subject because I talk about it so much.
Yeah.
But so without taking a lot of time,
That's all right.
I'll give you a quick walkthrough.
Right.
When you think about a 3-generation pedigree, most people love their pedigrees. When you think about 3 generations, there's 14 ancestors in that 3 generations, and 90-some% of the genes that are going to affect your puppies come from those 3 generations. So you breed a male to a female, they each have 14 ancestors. So that's 28 ancestors. So the big question is, do you know the strengths and weaknesses of each of those pedigrees before you put them together?
Yeah.
That's the question. So now we have to have a way to look at those pedigrees. So we know that you can take a dog and break them down into 7 structural parts: ears, head, front, back, rear, and tail. 7 parts. And all breed standards are written that way.
Yeah.
So you can take each of those pieces of the dog, if you will,
Awesome. Yeah.
code it on a pedigree so you can see this, and now you can look at the pedigree and say, those 20 or those 14 ancestors, these are their strengths and weaknesses. These other 14 ancestors, these are their strengths and weaknesses. So are we putting the best 2 dogs together?
Yeah.
That's the logic of this. So let's say the answer is yes. So now that we put the 2 dogs together, more research is being developed about what else can we do. So there's a body of literature now that talks about supplements.
Okay.
There's a vitamin called DHA, 3 letters, DHA, and it's been around for 50 years. All pregnant women in America take it today because the purpose of the vitamin is to develop the fetus's brain. So all of people who were born in the last 50 years,
Right.
their mothers had been taking this vitamin
Assisting with
so that they'd have a better brain when they're born. So a researcher in dogs came along and said, I wonder if that works in dogs. So he did a study, which is up on the website.
Yeah.
You can see that. And it shows that the day you feed the female, you feed her the DHA vitamin. 1 gelatin capsule. It's cheap and inexpensive, which is the other good part of this.
Right.
You feed her that all the way through the time she weans her puppies. So her puppies have been getting it now from conception
Right.
up to a weaning, and then you feed the puppies this until they're 14 weeks old, which is when their brain is 90% developed. That puppy will test out 50% smarter
Really?
and be more trainable.
Really?
Now, who could not use that idea?
Right.
So you don't have to be a scientist
Yeah,
now.
right,
You just
right.
have to know this vitamin,
Right.
given once a day, will
Right.
do this if you're consistent in what you do.
Yeah.
So that's the second piece of putting these dogs together. The third piece is early neurological stimulation. And this again goes back sometime, so again it's not brand new research. And it shows that if you stimulate the neurological system of a newborn between 3 days and 16 days of life, you will change this puppy forever. So now take those 3 ideas and package them together in a breeding program that we're talking about. We will have a better dog, more capable of protecting this country.
Right.
And the same ideas can be used for people who come to a show like this,
Yeah.
who go to obedience, who have hunting dogs,
Right.
just people
Or even
who
for a
live at home
family
who
pet.
don't,
Yeah,
who
right.
just want a nicer dog.
Right. Right.
So the idea is, unlike what they've done in other countries, is we think we share the information with everybody. Everybody should have a better dog, not
Yeah.
just certain groups.
Right.
So that's where I'm going with this.
It's no longer privileged information.
Exactly
It's public.
right.
I love that. And and I think that's the great part about that too is it's not hearsay. It's not voodoo or anything like that.
No,
that
this
people
is
are
all
passing
rooted
around.
in science.
It's scientific. It's empirical, and it's accessible.
It is.
That's
yeah.
wonderful. Well, thank you so much for sharing that with us. The website that you said it's on, what is the name of that?
AKC Dog Detection Task Force.
Okay, AKC Dog Detection Task Force. That's really exciting, and I think it's something that a lot of breeders here can use with their own breeding programs as
I
well.
hope so.
Thank you so much, Carmen. It was a pleasure.
Hey, thanks.